Tired of shows that bark and scream at you? This is the show that speaks to you.
Here's the game plan.
It's the Big E Sports Extravaganza, where we go inside the issues, present a variety of topics, and feature some of the biggest sports guests on the planet. Now, here's the one and only, award-winning Elissa Walker Campbell.
Hey, Elissa Walker Campbell, I want to welcome you back to the Big E Sports Show, the biggest and best in sports. We pride ourselves on delivering, and you can join us on social media at eRadio Sports. Email the show, info@eradiosports.com. Many different platforms. Check us out online. And today we are joined by one of the sharpest minds in the business when it comes to evaluating NFL talent. Jon Cooper is a senior NFL draft analyst and scout for Our Lads NFL Scouting Services, an organization trusted by teams, media, and fans alike for its in-depth analysis and insight. And as we look ahead to the 2025 NFL Draft, we're excited to get Jon's expert take on prospects, team strategies, and what to watch for as the next generation of NFL stars prepare for the league. Jon, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, as we look ahead to this year's draft, what stands out to you the most about this class?
You know, the thing that to us, we think there's maybe 15 or 16 bona fide first-round picks, maybe less, maybe a little bit more. But the thing that is interesting is that we think from maybe about 16, 17 around there to about almost 60, the value of these players is very similar. And so it's to actually see where they're going to go is going to be almost like flavor of the day for these teams. And the other thing is that this draft is loaded with guys that are good players, especially on defense, guys that can start for you. I think you can pick up 3 to 4 good players that are going to help you right away. Every team should be able to do that this year.
Well, you talk about loaded with defense. I mean, are there some specific positions that seem especially deep or particularly thin this year?
Well, defensive tackle is the position that, I don't know that I've seen a group that's this strong top to bottom. There are 40 defensive tackles, or interior defenders is the correct word, because, a 5 technique anywhere down to a 0 is considered an interior defender these days. So this particular group had 40 guys at the combine, and I've never seen that. I mean, maybe there's been that many before, but 40 bona fide interior defenders at the combine, and you've got a number of these guys that are probably not going to get drafted that are good enough to be drafted in a normal year.
So let's hear some of the names of the top NFL draft prospects and what to watch for, because we're on the clock. The countdown is on for the 2025 NFL Draft.
Well, if you go to the top, Travis Hunter, we think, is the best player in this draft. He's a cornerback, wide receiver, or a wide receiver cornerback. It depends on how you want to look at him. He wants to play both ways. I'm not sure a team is going to agree completely, but there's a chance that he could be a wide receiver that gets reps as a nickelback, or he could be a starting corner that gets significant reps as a wide receiver. Either way, I think he's going to help a team both sides on the ball. He could be the top corner and the top wide receiver in this draft. It just depends upon how do you want to use him. Abdul Carter is a terrific edge rusher. He's a Swiss Army knife type player. Ashton Genty is the top running back that we like. We think he's a potential top 10 pick. You've got some defensive tackles, as I was saying, starting with Mason Graham from Michigan, Walter Nolan from Mississippi, Kenny Grant from Michigan, and down the line, a number of other guys. Derek Harmon. I mean, there's a number of these guys that will probably be first-round picks. Malachi Starks is an excellent safety. Tatora McMillan is a terrific wide receiver from Arizona. These are some of the kind of great tight end, and Tyler Warren from Penn State. We think these are some top 10 guys, those last 3 we mentioned.
Jon, you mentioned some of the names, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. What about Shedeur Sanders? What do we need to know about him?
Well, we think he's one of 2 first-round quarterbacks. We don't see him as, the elite type player that you saw from last year's draft, but he's got some terrific skills. He tremendous accuracy. Something that's important outside the numbers is ball placement is very good. He can throw guys open, man coverage. His problem is pocket presence is not the best. He took a ton of sacks last year, and sensing the rush better is going to be something he's going to have to improve on. With a clean pocket, he's terrific. He's great. Not sure anybody's better in this draft, but the pocket's not always clean. And he's going to have to learn to do what to do when there's a lot of pressure on him as far as that goes. So that's what we see in him. Potentially a great one.
Well, as you're talking about, there's been some mixed evaluations. What teams are perhaps showing some interest when we talk about Sanders?
Well, I think any team that needs a quarterback is going to be looking at him for sure. Now, whether they take him or pass on him, that's going to be interesting to see. At the top of the draft, look at the New York Giants. We think Cam Ward's going to go first. We think he's going to Tennessee. We could be wrong about that. We've been wrong plenty of times before. You just never know what's going to happen. After that, Cleveland needs a quarterback. They may go with the best player available and go with Kenny Pickett, who they, just picked up. So that's, something to look for. Will the Giants do the same thing and go with what they have right now, or will they take Sanders? That's kind of where we kind of see this.
Countdown to kickoff as we look forward to the 2025 NFL Draft, going one-on-one with Jon Cooper from Our Lads. And how has the rise of the NIL and the transfer portal changed the way scouts are evaluating college talent?
Well, we still evaluate them the same. Can they play or not play for you and your system? But you have to realize that there are going to be guys that are going to stay in school. If a kid's not going to be at least considered a third, second, first-round pick, he's probably better off if he's got another year of eligibility and he's got good NIL money to stay in and make the money and maybe try to build his stock a little bit. If he's not, in that top tier, first, even second day range in the draft. And you're seeing that advice being given to a lot of these players. So you're seeing, for a while there, the junior class was very limited, and you're still seeing more of these really good juniors that have eligibility staying in school. So that's the big difference.
Well, every year it seems like when the draft rolls around, we see players slide, sometimes unexpectedly. So maybe who's a big name you think could fall farther than expected?
Well, there's a possibility Sanders could drop if the Giants pass on him.
Okay.
That's one. There's some guys that may have some information coming out about them. In terms of maybe they're not a great teammate, they're not a good player, in terms of their effort under pressure, under stress. Medical things come out that could cause guys to slide. We've got some information that we really can't get into. As far as that goes, stuff that we're not supposed, that we get that maybe we're not supposed to have. So we got to be careful with that. But there's only a couple guys that we see that are potentially dropping, that way. And for the most part, I think the surprises will come on the drop with the medical reports coming back on guys. One player in particular that we think has dropped in the draft, and not really because of anything we know about, but maybe because his play slipped compared to last year. There's actually two guys I could say. And Luther Burden, we're not sure how high he's going to go. We thought he was a top 10 pick going into the year. And we think he's more middle of the first round right now. You're not going to find a better slot receiver. But, I think there's a little bit of, maybe tarnish on the total player, right now. He may be a little more limited than people thought, but he's still a great receiver. And we still see a first round pick. Dion Walker is a defensive tackle that we thought was a surefire first round pick going into the season, but some injury concerns, big defensive tackle, 348 pounds from Kentucky, some of those injury concerns that showed up this year. He didn't quite have the same kind of year. So he's probably not going to go as high as we once expected. So he's probably dropped down, somewhat. I'm not sure how far, second, third round. He's an awfully talented football player if he's healthy.
John, which teams are under the most pressure to get the draft right?
I think everybody's under pressure to get it right, as far as that goes. I offhand, I think the Giants are, they've had they're probably the first team that comes to mind, in terms of having some issues. The coaching staff's probably under a little bit of fire. They had problems with the quarterback position. They never really have gotten that solved. And the other New York team, the Jets, is another one. They need to get it right. As far as where they're at. Obviously, the quarterback position has been a problem, but coaching change, notwithstanding, there is some pressure for them, I'm sure, to get it right. All the teams, the Bears, they've made some mistakes probably. They've done a great job. We think in free agency, they got a new coach. I think for the front office, they need to get this draft right.
Some of the teams feeling pressure, but one of the things that's always so fascinating to me for the NFL draft is the guys that or the players that are a sleeper pick that might perhaps sneak into that first round. Are there any names that you perhaps have your eye on?
Yeah, the funny thing is every time I come up with a sleeper, I find out they're not sleeping anymore. Everybody knows about them. So. But the one name that, a player that I really like is a linebacker named Carson Swessinger. He's from UCLA. He was a one-year starter. Going into the season, nobody knew about him. I knew about him only because a former player of mine when I was coaching was a special teams assistant at UCLA, and he worked with him. And so I knew about him, and there were a lot of things I liked about him, but he had a terrific year for UCLA as an off-the-ball linebacker. And there are people that are projecting him. We project him as a second-round pick, but he's one of those guys that, you're starting to hear more and more people are looking at him. He's a great cover linebacker, so he's probably not sleeping anymore. So in terms of that, he's going to go in the second round at least, I think. Quality player. Another guy that's down the line that is similar is a kid from Indiana, C.J. West.
Okay.
He's a defensive tackle, C.J. West, and he's probably more of a mid-round, maybe third-day pick, could be second day, but he's one of those great defensive tackles in this draft that maybe in another year is going to go a lot higher, but with 33, 34 of them with draftable grades and maybe more. He's someone that might get lost in the shuffle to some people, but terrific football player, does a lot of things well. He can play on the nose. He can move around the front, high motor player. Not the great pass rusher, but he's a good football player.
Countdown to kickoff 2025 NFL Draft. We have been going one-on-one with Jon Cooper, Our Lads. Check him out. Also, just my final question for you is, how many years will it take for the Browns to dig themselves out of the Deshaun Watson mess? What say you? Come on, John.
Things can get better in a hurry in the NFL with a good draft. And I think one of the challenges that Cleveland has this year is you need a quarterback, but you have a lot of other needs. You've got wide receiver, you need a corner, you need another edge rusher possibly. The good news is this draft has what they need, and you can get guys in all rounds that can help you. And I think one of the things that's going on in their draft room right now is who do we take with that second pick in the draft? Do we take the very best player out there, or do we try to solve the quarterback problem? I'm inclined to think they might take the best player there, whether it's Carter or whether it's Hunter or maybe somebody else, and take the quarterback a little bit later on. Develop that person, let him play behind Kenny Pickett, who's got NFL starting experience. I don't think that's a bad plan. There are some developmental guys later on that could be good players. They've made the mistake before with number one quarterbacks. So I'm inclined to think they're going to take the best football player and then let the quarterback situation take care of itself later on.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch it unfold. He is the ultimate evaluator of NFL talent. That is Jon Cooper with Our Lads. We appreciate you dropping by, and we look forward to the 2025 NFL Draft. Thank you, John.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.